This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Fifth India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. The participants are Professor Swaran Singh, International Relation Expert, and Simran Sodhi, Journalist.
Today we are discussing the India-United States 2+2 Foreign and Defense Ministerial Dialogue that was held in New Delhi today. And during this meeting, India and the United States discussed a number of global issues and also bilateral issues. There was talks on defense cooperation, emerging technologies, people-to-people ties, and also the conflict which is ongoing in Israel and the Gaza conflict. Professor Singh, when we see this ministerial dialogue which took place in Delhi today in the backdrop of the Ukraine conflict, and now we have the conflict in Gaza, how do you assess the importance of such a dialogue, especially when the world around us seems to be changing and in a state of constant conflict also?
Thank you, Simran. First of all, United States has a similar 2+2 dialogue only with a very select allies of United States. That means United States places high importance on setting up such a 2+2 dialogue with any other country. Second, other than the national summit meetings of national leaders, 2+2 dialogue marks the highest level meeting of any two nations, in this case between India and United States. The purpose, therefore, is to fundamentally, first of all, take stock of all the initiatives that are taken, are being implemented, are moving forward, and also provide broad strategic direction as to what are the areas where India and United States want to carry forward their partnerships. And third, I think, is equally important because it is a high-level 2+2 dialogue of two defense ministers and two foreign ministers. They not only are discussing bilateral initiatives and bilateral irritants or issues, they also discuss what could their partnership deliver in addressing various regional and global challenges, and what are their strategies and what are their views on those various issues that are matter of concern. In this case, for example, issues like Ukraine war, issues like Israel-Hamas war, or any other issue like climate change and terrorism, they will be constantly sharing notes and trying to build some kind of consensus on many of these issues. So in that sense, this is an institutionalized annual dialogue that makes sure that cumulative progress of bilateral relationship will constantly keep moving forward. And in that sense, this 2+2 dialogue becomes extremely important because this is the only dialogue which the United States does with a non-alliance partner country. That shows how much importance the United States places on India and wants to build relationship with India in terms of providing leadership for the future.
Professor Singh, as we also mentioned earlier, it is the Israel-Hamas conflict which is going on. And we saw that today Dr. S. Jaishankar, India's foreign minister, he spoke on this and he said that India has always advocated the resumption of direct negotiations towards establishing a sovereign, independent and viable state of Palestine, living within secure and recognized borders, side by side at peace with Israel. We've also seen, as this conflict is now more than a month old, and we've seen that the United States has been a very strong support to Israel. How much, do you think can India influence this? And how is India and the US going to come to terms with the conflict? Because as India has said, they support Palestine. And India also criticized the terrorist attack by Hamas on October 7th. But we also see the US being a very strong support to Israel. So all these factors taken together, how do India and the US come to a common perspective?
Of course, United States has demonstrated the staunchest possible support to Israel. The fact that President himself visited in middle of the war going on in Israel. And of course, this was followed by Secretary of State Antony Blinken having already visited 4 times in 4 weeks, and Defense Secretary Austin Lloyd also has visited there. That kind of support is unusual, first of all, and I think even if national leaders of Italy, France, UK, Germany have also visited Israel to showcase their support, no one has showcased it like the United States. So the United States is a very unique case here. I don't think any other country, including India, stand to showcase that kind of support, even if India has a very, very strong relationship with Israel that we normally describe as relationship of 3 Ds, defense and diamonds and drip irrigation. Israel is third largest supplier of defense equipment to India. So it's a very strong relationship. Second, I think what is important to understand is that United States President Joe Biden in 2021, when he had set up a second quadrilateral for West Asia, first one for Indo-Pacific, second one in West Asia, called I2U2, India, Israel, and UAE and United States. That quad, again, US decided to bring India on board. And it is simple because India is a very unusual country which is friendly to almost all Middle Eastern countries, from Egypt to Saudi Arabia to Israel to UAE to Iran, countries that don't see eye to eye between themselves sometimes. So US understands this, and therefore it clearly indicates that at least United States, which seems to be the most important outside player in seeking solution to the problem, sees India as the most critical partner it has in dealing with issues in West Asia. Of course, like most other nations, India also believes for cessation of violence, for immediate dialogue, and of course setting up of the two nations, which was how in 1948 United Nations proposal had conceived to create two nations, nation states there. But of course, that remains a complex issue. It's not going to be very easy. But in that sense, there are a lot of areas where United States and India are exactly on the same page as to how they want to see this war between Israel and Hamas coming to an end as soon as possible.
Professor Singh, we've seen that over the last few years that one of the areas in which India and the US have really strengthened their relationship is in their partnership in the Quad. And we saw that Antony Blinken also today said that we are promoting a free and open, prosperous, secure and resilient Indo-Pacific, including by strengthening our partnership through the Quad with Japan and Australia. One, of course, the Quad has seen great success. We've seen all the four Quad partners cooperate with one another. How much closer does India and the US come as a result of their cooperation in Quad? And two, do you feel that the Quad, even though this is never said very publicly, the Quad does in some way counter the rise of China regionally and globally?
First of all, Indo-Pacific geopolitics, the whole debate, brings in a whole new element that brings United States and India closer. There were other elements like people-to-people relations, economic relationship, defense cooperation, technology transfers, and so on. But the focus on Indo-Pacific, which is clearly driven by a rise of China and uncontested kind of assertions that China has made, particularly in South China Sea and against all its neighbors in South and Southeast Asia, that is what made countries, United States and its friends and allies, and of course Southeast Asian countries and India, very conscious that they need to reorganize the geopolitics of this region so that they can put certain restrictions to ensure that China follows international norms and behavior, code of conduct, etc. So Indo-Pacific therefore brings in a whole new element that brings India and United States together. And the fact that United States chose to bring India on board in quadrilateral security framework right from very beginning, in 2007, and when the initiative first started, then of course it kind of became dysfunctional. It is revived from 2017, and now national level leaders meet repeatedly. The fact that Japan and Australia are already alliance partners of United States, but United States chooses to bring India, which is not an alliance partner, into that security dialogue, quadrilateral security framework, reflects that United States not only believes in, but also demonstrates how much it values India, which it sees as the largest neighbor of China. And China is the challenge for United States in the region. Also the biggest economy, fastest growing economy. So United States demonstrates to the world how important it sees India to be in ensuring peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. And therefore, it has constantly engaged India. What is interesting is that India has also engaged in Quad or in Indo-Pacific debates, but on its own terms. Prime Minister's speech of 2018 June in Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore had outlined India's vision that India didn't want to see militarization of Indo-Pacific. India didn't want to see any of these groupings becoming exclusive clubs. They should be open and inclusive. India has continued to propagate that. And so India has not kind of become as if India is bandwagoning in any other country like United States. This is interesting that United States has continued to engage and partner with India when India stands on its own rules and regulations and follows its own foreign policy, independent foreign policy, which sometimes is not most appreciated and welcomed in United States, but United States own balance decides that India is an important partner, and beyond a point they will have to also come to an agreement with how India wants to pursue peace and stability in the region. So I think that is what is most interesting, that in Indo-Pacific the partnership of India and United States have added a important another critical element which brings them closer. And you just heard today Defense Secretary Austin Lloyd saying this is his 9th visit to Indo-Pacific region. That shows how much importance the United States places on this region, and then how much importance it places on partnering with India in ensuring peace and stability in the region.
Professor Singh, we've seen another aspect of this relationship is the people-to-people ties. And also, there's a large number of Indian students studying in the US, and the US today has a very strong Indian diaspora, people who have done very well. We have Ajay Banga, who is now the president of the World Bank. We have other Indians who are leading international organizations. And this is also something that Antony Blinken spoke about today when he said that, the two nations were deepening the remarkable ties between our people, which is really at the heart of everything. And he stressed travel exchange and, importantly, reducing the visa visit times. How important is this reduction of visa visit time, and also how significant increasingly is the role that is being played by the Indian diaspora in the US in the strengthening of the India-US relationship?
Simran, from the time of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, diaspora engagement had become a very important instrument of carrying forward India's national objectives through foreign policy. Multiple engagements with diaspora are increasingly visible now when Prime Minister visits any country, including the United States. Now, what is so significant about United States is that not only we have about 4.4 million people of Indian ethnic origin there, these are also people who are extremely successful, and some of them, dozens and dozens of them, are iconic figures in the United States, both in their corporate sector, in economy, but also in politics. And that is what makes it possible, because both India and United States are democracies and they allow people to move forward, and American dream or Indian dream in that sense. And once you have people to people strong connections, that builds constituencies for the national leaders to take decisions, because national leaders have to defend their decisions back home. And if people are increasingly themselves becoming stakeholders in building partnership between the United States and India, that means that it is much easier and the momentum will be much faster in how partnerships will be not just conceived, but also implemented between India and the United States. And that is why you see the kind of personality, bonhomie of different levels of leaders, whether it is foreign ministers or national leaders, showcases the ease of understanding and ease of doing business with each other. And that is what has transformed India and United States in the last 2 decades or so. A whole range of sectors where partnerships are being built, all of them are being technology driven. Emerging and critical technology initiative, for example, whether it is commercial sectors or it is defense sectors or any sector, India is looking for technology transfers from United States to leap forward in terms of its dream of developing India as kind of developed country by 2047, as we are discussing these days. So that kind of intense partnership, which has strong domestic support on both sides, in fact, also cross-party lines support, bipartisan support in the United States and across all parties in India, support to build that partnership, I think is very promising in that sense that these two nations are kind of ordained to work together in not just addressing their bilateral issues and domestic issues, but also regional and global issues.
And in the coming days, we will continue our discussions on the India-US relationship and the various facets with this relationship. With these comments, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on 5th India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. The participants were Professor Swaran Singh, International Relation Expert, and Simran Sodhi, Journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or on WhatsApp at the number 9289094044.